From his dangerous wrestling to his incredibly powerful striking, Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian Nightmare, is a deadly fighter, and he's got the record to prove it. He has beaten the best of the best. And as I mentioned before, he's been able to do this because he's a very competent fighter. He's beaten guys like Jorge Masvidal, Leon Edwards, Colby Covington, and pretty much everyone else at the top of welterweight. Now granted, he did lose to Edwards in their rematch, and he lost the belt. But guys, that wasn't because Usman wasn't dangerous. It was because Edwards just made the perfect sequence of moves, and any fighter in the UFC would have gotten KO'd by that head kick.
Send the head kick up lovely, and he slipped into it, and then when I seen him fall, I thought, nah, he's done. I felt it was a clean shot, and like I said, I knew going into the fight he was a tough opponent. You know, this is why they claimed that he was the pound-for-pound best and number one. And so I knew that going into the fight, I did not doubt his skill set, but I knew I was a better man, and I proved it tonight.
Anyway, before that loss to Rocky, the Nigerian Nightmare was running laps around the division, and he was even up to his 5th successful title defense. This sort of dominance is rare in any division, let alone welterweight. Just for some perspective, remember that the last time a fighter was able to stay at the top of the welterweights for this long was when GSP was in his prime, and he's one of the greatest of all time. That's right, if Edwards hadn't stopped Kamaru, he would have probably been in that GOAT conversation by now too. Now, did I mention that this fighter had some deadly weapons that helped him achieve this? But what exactly were these? To start with, his wrestling is world class. Yeah, this man's been so good on the canvas that he's at the top of the entire UFC when it comes to wrestling. And that's not even an exaggeration. Usman's opponents are in constant terror of being taken down because once they are, it's game over. His grappling is so insane. It's honestly like watching a crocodile tear apart a gazelle in the water. It's very rare for a fighter to slip away once Usman's grip is locked in. Now, until very recently, the Nigerian beast boasted an insane statistic that few in the UFC have ever managed: a 100% takedown defense. And just to give you guys some clarity, this is as insane as it sounds. 100% of the times his opponents tried to take him down, they failed. Even now, at present, after fighting Covington a few times and taking the loss to Leon, this man's takedown defense is still a whopping 97%. So not only is he a beast on the mat, but he's also insane at stopping his opponents from taking him down. And guys, lots of guys in the UFC are good at grappling, but Usman's ability to not be taken down is still unique. But as baffling as it is, there is a pretty solid explanation: the guy's wrestling pedigree. That's right, Kamaru isn't just one of the guys that trained and got good on their own, like the Dagestanis or Khamzat. Yeah, those guys are good, sure, but they got good training in their little bubbles. Usman's wrestling pedigree is insane. This man was wrestling at the state level back in high school and obtained a record of 53-3. Not only that, but he came in 3rd in the Texas State Championship. And this wasn't just any old competition, guys. No, in the year that Usman won 3rd, he was wrestling alongside huge names like John Jones. Yeah, if that doesn't tell you a thing or two about this man's skill, I don't know what will. In any case, it gets even better, because after high school, this man went on to William Penn University in Iowa, where he continued to dominate. Then he moved on and transferred to Nebraska, helping them win their first ever team title. As impressive as all this is, though, somehow it goes even deeper. That's right, this man was just about to make it to the Olympics. And sure, he never made it all the way, but guys, he was pretty much a full-time resident at the U.S. Olympic Academy. That means he was so good that the U.S. team scouted this man and invited him to train at their training center. The wrestlers training there are the ones that the team chooses from when it's time for the big Olympic Games. And Usman was so good, he would have made it without any doubt. Unfortunately, though, he got injured and couldn't make the cut. Now, this doesn't mean he couldn't have made it for the next Olympics, because let me assure you, he definitely could have. He just chose not to wait another 4 years for the next Games. And honestly, that was a decision that was amazing for all of us MMA fans. That's right, this was the time that the Nigerian Nightmare turned his eyes to the MMA octagon. Now, I've gone on and on about his wrestling, but don't be fooled, guys. That's not the only thing that makes him dangerous. No, he's got some deadly striking, too. Yeah, the Nigerian Nightmare has some very heavy hands. but then so do a lot of guys at 170. So what makes Usman's striking special? Well, the man's got some insane fight IQ behind his strikes. He uses his brain and forces openings. Then, before you know it, he throws a massive KO blow and sends the competition to the canvas. Yeah, probably his most powerful weapon when it comes to his striking is his jab. And this goes perfectly with what I just said about fight IQ, because the jab is supposed to be used to make openings. That's not all that the ex-welterweight king used his jabs for, though. He had some insane power in them, too. In fact, he finished off his win over Gilbert Burns via a jab that sent Dorino's head flying back. Now, as deadly as the jab is for Usman's opponents, he's got another weapon, his insane right cross that he uses to shut things down. The jab makes the opening, and then that deadly massive cross comes in to turn out the lights. This is exactly what he did against Jorge Masvidal when he pulled off that beautiful KO win. All of this is impressive enough as it is, but guys, somehow it gets even scarier. Yep, Usman's mastered his fundamentals, and while this may sound boring, trust me, it's very scary. Usman's insane fitness and amazing discipline have turned him into a monster that's an expert everywhere. On the feet and on the ground. I talked about his jab just now. Let's look at that as an example. One of the reasons why the Nigerian Nightmare's jab is so effective at making openings is that through some grueling training, the madman's been able to make it so that he can jab the same way with the same power and accuracy with both of his hands. This means that even when an opponent knows a jab is coming, they can only ever guess if it's going to come from the left or the right. Yeah, that's terrifying, especially when you know that if the jab is able to trap you, that nuclear cross won't be far behind. And guys, I'm not just saying that this man is deadly. His record shows it very clearly. Yeah, he's one of the most dominant welterweights ever.
It's not about the belt for me.
Yeah.
It's the work that I put in each and every day to get there is what makes me a champion on the inside. And I know that I'm the best welterweight in the world.
Yeah.
I know that. And I, to be honest with you, I think I am the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world.
Second only to Georges St. Pierre. And as I said before, that's not a small achievement. Usman may not have been able to surpass GSP, but guys, he still makes it to the GOAT list in my opinion. Come on, he was on a 15-fight winning streak, and even though Leon beat him, Usman was dominating that entire match. He's beaten every single fighter in the top ranks of the division at least once. And as good as Edwards is, we might just see Usman take back his belt.
Back there in no time, and I just, what it's going to do for me. I can't wait for the feeling of getting it wrapped around me again.
That was a breakdown of why Usman is a deadly fighter.